Let's talk about the reasons why men become sexually delusional. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones, and I want to respond to Luna's comment from my previous post. Men love attention, and when you're the one that gets it and he's overlooked, you're in danger. Bingo, she hit the nail on the head. And I'm going to say some things, and I want you guys to try to stay with me. I might lose some of you, and that's okay. I'm not for everyone. But I absolutely agree with this comment. I got a lot of questions. People were sort of asking me over and over, Dr. Jones, why are men taking their clothes off in public? Why do they do this? Why are they sexually inappropriate at the workplace and things like that? And I want you to take a walk with me here and listen to this. Tell me what you think. And this is something that I observed, again, with working in corrections. And going back to what Miss Luna was saying, men love attention and they don't get it. If you think about it, think about men and women in this way. Most women, no matter how attractive or unattractive you are, most women experience being sexually harassed at several points in their life. Hate to say it like that, but most women, most of us have all been sexually harassed, if not all of us, right? If you work in a public setting, if you live in a metropolitan city, if you're in class with men, if you're just walking down the street minding your own business, you're going to be catcalled, you're going to be looked at, if men are standing together in a cluster, they're kind of evaluating, and scoping you out and maybe catcalling, whistling, hey baby, come here, that kind of stuff, or someone says something sexually inappropriate to you. Most women, if not all women, experience that. Now, when you put the shoe on the other foot, how often are women catcalling men? I don't think I've ever seen a woman in my life, in almost my 46 years of life, catcall a man. Now, it may look a little different now. Now we have women that are called pygmishas and things like that are chasing men for validation. So that's as close as you're going to get. Women that will give men money and, pay for them to have a place to stay and, love them down to their own detriment. That's as close as you're going to get. But publicly, you're not getting, unless you were to go to like an exotic dance place or something like that. But to me, that doesn't really count because that's like a nuanced situation. But your average, everyday, ordinary man is not getting catcalled. He's not getting his butt squeezed. He's not getting grabbed by the waist saying, hey, baby, come here. For the most part, women are avoiding. They're crossing the street. They're minding their own business. Oh, it's just a man, However, men want that attention. Men and a man is not going to necessarily tell you this, but most men look at a woman's ability to get that kind of attention, to get that kind of, almost like they look at it as being idolized. Women don't look at it that way, but men look at it as like, oh, she's idolized. She's a goddess. Men are worshiping her. They look at that as power, that feminism, that sexiness, that attention is power, and men crave power first and foremost before anything else. Sex is power. And so what men do is they take what they think is the next best thing to try to emulate what women have. And that's why I say I learned a lot of that when working at corrections, because here in California, I can't speak about other states. I've only worked in corrections in California, so that's what I'm going to speak on. But here in California, when there's a lot of men that go to prison and they hate women, they've committed the worst of the worst crimes on women, right? They beat them up, they've dismembered women, they have raped women, sodomized, and by the way, trigger warning. But the first chance that they get in California, in a prison in California, they can become transgender. And they don't necessarily even need to be take on the full, get the gender reassignment surgery. They can take on the hormones. They can just start wearing feminine clothes and things like this. And where I work, this is a big problem. in the summertime, or, whenever, they thought that they can get away with it, what are they doing? They're walking around, they're sexually advertising themselves. The biggest fights in prison was over who is going to get that transgender to sell up with them, or who's going to have that transgender person as a girlfriend. I kid you not. Those were the biggest fights were over that. And I cannot tell you how many people I had to speak to about that and inappropriate. And if I had one on my caseload or whatever, it'd be like, you need to put some clothes on. We're not going to do that, because that was like a big thing, that advertising. But that's what they do. They broadcast that to become sexually appealing, because that's attention-seeking. Sex sells. And so that's the part of feminism that men try to copy and take for themselves. When you look at all of these male coaches on TikTok, for those of you that says, I've never seen a man take off their clothes, blah, 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 in public at my job. What do you think all these male coaches are doing? Every single one of these male coaches are trying to appeal to the female gaze. And they've got those specially dangly earrings and those nose rings. And we all know, what that means, right? But they're all without shirts on, or they're in various stages of undress, and some of them even get dressed on camera, and that is because they are trying to become powerful through the art of sexual suggestion. Men cannot do this. They cannot emulate, they cannot copy or replicate what women have. You can dress them up, put lipstick on, but you cannot ever copy the true essence of a woman, and men hate women for that. Not all men, but men who definitely want to seek that attention. And that's why you get men who will beat the shit out of women, because they want what you have, and they're pissed off that they can never get it in the way that comes so easy to you. How dare you be so privileged to have that power in your coochie, in your breast, in just being the essence of a woman. That's how they sort of break it down in their minds. They're never going to tell you that, but that's exactly what it is. I'll tell you something else. I'll give you another example. John and Lorena Bobbitt. Lorena Bobbitt made national news. Her husband was cheating. She cut off his penis, pow, and threw it right in the woods, and never looked back. She got carted off to prison. Police went and picked up John Bobbitt's penis. Not only did he get it stitched back on, but he got it enhanced, so he got it blown up a little bit. And what's the first thing John Bobbitt does with his penis? You would think that John Bobbitt would lay low and put ice on it, but no, what does he do? He goes out and he starts making a multitude of pornographic films, because he wants attention. He wants to be like every woman's dream, and men want to be gods, and they want to be powerful. All the while, he's sitting there writing Lorena, telling her, when you get out of prison, hey baby, I want you back. I love you. All is forgiven. Don't worry about cutting off my penis and throwing it in the woods. It's all right with me. I love you. I'm always going to love you. This is, and I'm not making this up. You don't believe me? You go and Google it. But this man, all he craved was sexual attention. He wants that attention. He wants to feel that sense of importance. And unfortunately for men, they look at, that attention is being down in between their legs. That's why so many women now are having so much trouble in dating now, where they're not realizing it's the man that they're with who hates them, is hating them for simply being a woman and getting attention. That's something that they simply desire, that they crave, that they just aren't getting. And even when men do get it, they have to go to extremes. They have to strip themselves naked. They have to put their penis in your face. And I'll tell you something else. Sometimes it works for them, and that one yes, no matter if they get 20,000 no's, that one yes is their everything. Again, they're not going to tell you that, but that makes them feel important, and they're chasing that high. They continue chasing it, because there's one woman out of all the women that they've tried this to and gotten away, and some of the women that sort of forced themselves on, they've gotten away with it. But then there's other women that say, yes, I love it, you're great, you're special, give me more of that. And that high is something that they will spend the rest of their lives chasing, those few minutes of attention.